Hello and welcome to Get Great at Maths. Today we're going to look at the GCSE Mathematics OCR J560 exam paper from the June 2022 series on the higher tier, paper 4, question 11. And this is on the calculator exam paper. Now, question 11 is a question to do with the upper and lower bounds, and this question is worth 4 marks because in the bottom right hand corner it tells us the number 4 in the corner. And at the end of the question it says show how you decide, which means you must show you're working in order to gain the full 4 marks for the question. Now this question is quite a wordy question, so make sure you read the question nice and carefully and you take out the key bits of information from the question. And to know that it is an upper and lower bound within this question, the key word within here is this word minimum. So this word minimum is taking you to think, I need an upper bound or a lower bound. So you've got to take out the key bits of information from within this question to be able to work out what you've got to do. Now we're looking at panels, and the panels of the fence are 1.8 meters long, and this is correct to 1 decimal place. So these are 2 key points, and you can highlight this on your exam paper in the exam, either underline the words or highlight key parts to help you answer the question. So that means the distance from one panel to the next panel is 1.8 meters long. But that is not exactly 1.8 meters long because there could be some error in that measurement. So someone could have measured that value of the fence panel slightly wrong, so there could be some leeway in that panel. So to help us work out what the leeway is going to be, we need to find the upper and lower bounds. Now if I write out 1.8 on the scale and I go either side of that to 1 decimal place, I'm looking at 1.7 and 1.9. And I'm looking at a number that will round to give me 1.8. I want to know the lowest number that will round to 1.8, and I want to know the maximum number that will round down to 1.8. So you see the orange arrow that's just appeared? That is telling me the range that I'm looking for my lower and my upper bound. Now to work that out accurately, we're going to look at this 1 decimal place. Now 1 decimal place is 0.1. And to find out the upper or lower bound, we're going to halve that 0.1, which gives me 0.05, and then I'm going to add and subtract it to the 1.8 to work out what the bounds are going to be. So the upper bound is going to be 1.8 plus 0.05, which gives me 1.85. Now when you're looking at this, you're probably thinking actually 1.85 would round to give me 1.9. Technically you're correct, but when we're looking at the upper bound, it's the value that will take you up to this 1.85. So we're allowing this 1.85, it doesn't equal 1.85. But for the upper bound, we always just use the easier value of 1.85. Now the lower bound is done by taking 1.85 and subtracting 0.05, which gives me 1.75 for 1 mark. Now I'm going to do a similar thing with the length of the garden. Now the garden, we're told, is 42 meters, and this is correct to the nearest meter. So this time I'm going to take the number 42, and I've got a meter below, which is 41, and a meter above, which is 43, and I'm going to look at the upper and lower bound, which is the distance between the orange arrow that's just appeared above that green diagram. So this time it's nearest meter, so that's 1 meter, and half of 1 meter is 0.5. So I'm going to do 42 plus 0.5 for my upper bound, which gives me 1 mark, and then 42 minus 0.5, which is 41.5. Now the next part of the question tells me I've got to look at the minimum number of panels Jamie should buy in order to be certain there are enough panels for the length of the garden. So to work out how many panels, I've got to do the length of the garden divided by the panel length. Okay, and most people can understand we've got to do that, but it wants to know the minimum number of panels and make sure we have got enough panels for the length of the garden. So this bit in the red box, the enough panels, is key. So we need to make sure he doesn't need to go back to the shop and buy any more panels because he was short on panels. Okay, so to find to make sure he's got enough panels, we need the maximum number of panels he's got to buy, so he doesn't need to ever go back and he's always got enough. So to find the maximum number of panels, we need the maximum length of the garden divided by the minimum length of the panel, because when you divide the maximum divided by the minimum length, that will give me the maximum number of panels in this case. So I'm going to replace the maximum length with the 42.5, and I'm going to replace the minimum length with 1.75, which gives me 1 mark. Now by doing that, that gives me 24.2857142.9. Now I've got to decide what the maximum number of panels is. Now normally when we round, we would say that would round to 24. Okay, so the 0.2 would round down, leaving me with 24 panels. But I want to know the maximum number of panels. Now if I only bought 24 panels and I needed 24.2 of a panel, have we got enough panels? No, we don't. So what we actually have to do is we need to round this 24 up to give me 25 for 1 mark. So this will give me the 4 marks that we need for the question. Remembering to make sure you write your answer on the dotted line in the final space. Now the mark scheme for this question tells me that we get a method mark for trying to use the upper bound. Okay, so here, these two values here are classed as the upper bound, divided by my 1.75, which gives me 3 marks. Okay, there was 1 mark, so this B1 is for 1.75. There's another method mark here, B1, for either getting 42.5 or the 42.499, because technically 42.4999999, the maximum value you can have, okay, will round down to that 42. But for ease purposes, we use the 42.5, so I'd always recommend you use the 42.5. So 42.5 divided by 1.75, when we round that, that gives me the 25, which gives me my final answer mark, which gives me the 4 marks, which the question is out of in total. There are 3 marks, so B3 for using the answer of 24.29. And there is another method mark for their 24.29 seen correctly rounded up, okay, if you made a mistake or you got a different value. There is also a method mark if you've marked figures crossed out if you think that they have been rejected for use. So for example, we didn't use both maximum and minimum values. We only used 1 maximum and 1 minimum. So the other maximum and minimums we just rejected. We didn't need those in the question. So for rejecting those, you could get a method mark for doing that. Thanks for listening. This is a video done by Get Great at Maths. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe to see more videos. Thanks for listening.